Good morning.
What's your reaction to the arrest, but also this story as has evolved over the last 24 hours?
Well, it's obviously a very concerning story, and it's right that the police take it very seriously. I can't comment on a live police investigation, as I don't know the details. But it's important that the Prime Minister and anyone in public life has their family, their homes protected. You know, we have robust disagreements in politics, but I want to ensure anyone who chooses to go into public life feels that they'll be properly protected and that we have civility in our debate. It's absolutely wrong, disgraceful for any individual to take the kind of action that we saw against the Prime Minister's home.
Do you fear for safety of yourself and other parliamentarians, given what's happened in recent years, when little moments like this do raise their heads?
Well, unfortunately, there is a pattern, isn't there, now, where we've seen a number of members of Parliament losing their life, attacks on other members of Parliament, and now attacks of this nature. I've had protesters, I've had people attacking my own home, intimidating my family. We've received death threats. This isn't unusual. It's right that politicians, particularly the most prominent ones like the Prime Minister, have all the protection that they need so that them and their families feel safe.
I didn't know that, that you've had death threats, and I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm almost equally shocked and sorry to hear that you say it's not unusual. Is it become a matter of course to receive death threats in Parliament?
Well, I know a number of other MPs who've had similar situations. So I think it is relatively common. I just don't want to see good people put off going into politics. That's what's important. And those of us who choose to go into politics, myself, the Prime Minister, that's different to our husbands, wives, children. We need to ensure that the families of people in public life are properly protected. And that's why it's important that the police take all the action they need to protect the Prime Minister and his homes.
I guess you just touched on this in your first answer, but we're about to move on to talking about the immigration white paper. I'm sure you're going to disagree quite significantly with the government, but only with your words, always. Is that fair to say? Is that the important lesson from this?
Absolutely. I want there to be a civil debate in this country, and there will be issues on which we profoundly disagree, Keir Starmer, myself and the Conservative Party with our opponents. But the debate in this country has to be one which is a respectful one, and we cannot allow individuals, potentially this person who's been arrested today, to intimidate people out of public life.
Let's move on and talk about the immigration white paper. This was always going to be my first question. I wonder if there are some items in it. I've seen your tweets already, but some line items of the sub-policies within it, some of which you agree with?
I think there were some decent things within the announcement. I support the idea that you should take longer when you arrive in this country to receive indefinite leave to remain and have a right to remain here for forever. I think it's important that we expect higher standards of English for people who come to this country than we have in recent years. But I think this is going an inch when we need to run a mile. This is not going to stop the boats. This is not going to end the era of mass migration. This is not going to enable us to get foreign criminals off our streets and out of the country. When I listened to the Prime Minister's press conference yesterday, I frankly didn't believe a word that he said. It looked like a hostage situation where a man was reading out the words that his advisors had written, but which he blatantly didn't believe in. He's somebody who has built a life, a career, a circle of friends, a worldview, which is open borders. He signed letters trying to frustrate the removal of foreign criminals from our country. He stood for the leadership of the Labour Party on a platform of restoring freedom of movement. He's trying to con the public with an elaborate trick that he is going to tackle these issues, when we know that he isn't. He's going to be just another politician who makes promises on immigration only to break them. And that has been something that politician after politician has done in recent decades since Tony Blair, the founding father of mass migration, started this issue 25 years ago. And it's led to massive corrosion and erosion of public trust and confidence.
I guess in terms of broken promises when it comes to immigration and hard numbers to back that up, that your party and a government that you're a part of has a bigger question to answer on that point.
Well, I've been the most painfully honest about the mistakes of the last Conservative government. I think catastrophic errors were made. They are in a line that goes right back to Tony Blair, who started this period of mass migration. But I don't pretend that they were the right decisions. I think they were bad decisions, and they're ones that we need to be honest about. What needs to happen now, though, is change. We need action. You know, I ultimately resigned from government because I wasn't willing to be just another politician who made promises on immigration and then broke them. And I think you're going to see Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper consigned to the dustbin of history of prime ministers and home secretaries who talk big but don't take the action that's necessary.
I guess when you resigned, it was specifically in relation to the Rwanda bill, which was obviously aimed...
It was both that and legal migration. I campaigned for a year to persuade the then Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, to bring into place measures that would reduce legal migration. We secured the biggest ever changes that will lead to 300,000 fewer people coming into this country. We're just starting to see that in the data that's emerging. But when I couldn't persuade him of any more, I chose to resign as a matter of principle. If only the current crop of Labour politicians had the same backbone, but they don't. They're talking big. The actions that they're taking are not going to have the impact that they desire. And I don't think they want to. I don't think they believe in the nation state, in borders. I don't think they back British workers.
So let's talk about kind of having the principle and the backbone. Is your view, and I've seen your comments about whether this only tackles Article 8 of the ECHR and not Article 3, is your position that the country should pull out of the ECHR?
Well, the Conservative Party's position is...
What's your position?
Well, I'm here to... I'll answer your question, but I'm here to represent the Conservative Party. Our position under Kemi Badenoch is that, at a minimum, we should disapply the Human Rights Act. Now, that, for all immigration matters, and that will have a big impact, because that ensures that you can't have illegal migrants misusing our human rights laws to frustrate their removal. What Labour have proposed is a very limited intervention, where they're looking at one article of the ECHR, not others. It's not going to have the impact. It'll easily be circumvented by illegal migrants and lawyers bringing into play vexatious legal actions. What the party has also said is that we're going to consider whether that in itself is enough or whether we actually need to leave in its entirety the European Convention on Human Rights. I have a long-standing position on that. The party is considering that and is going to come forward with its view later in the year.
I mean, I come back to this point. So you criticise the government of not having a backbone on this. You say that you've been very clear to criticise aspects of the last Conservative government and why you resigned. Would you like your leader and the party to move quicker and clearer on this? I mean, it sounds like you want to leave the ECHR. We've had 9 months since the election. You're criticising the government for not going far enough. Do you want your party to go further?
Well, I've made my view clear on that.
But so you want to leave the ECHR?
But the party has got a process in place now. Kemi Badenoch has said...
Is the process too slow?
No, I think it's perfectly valid for the Conservative Party to consider this carefully, but it has brought forward, and in fact we voted on it yesterday in the House of Commons, a very significant change, which would be to disapply the Human Rights Act, which would have a profound impact on the ability of illegal migrants and their legal representatives to frustrate our system. And, just as importantly, we've said that we're going to bring into place a capped system for legal migration. And that means that, for once, the public can actually have confidence that the big promises being made by politicians will actually be delivered upon, because Parliament will have set a legally binding cap on the visas being issued by the Home Office.
I mean, it still remains to be seen why taking your time can't mean 9 months as opposed to a bit longer. Just quick final question on this. Coming back to some of the rhetoric, immigration has done incalculable damage to this country, and we risk becoming an island of strangers, words of the Prime Minister yesterday. Do you agree with those words?
I think we already are. I think there are certain places in this country where people are not living side by side, where we are a very divided, segregated society. If you look at the centre of Bradford, for example, 50% of people were not born in the UK. If you look at the centre of Luton, almost 50% of people only arrived in the UK in the last 10 years. If you look at parts of Dagenham, the white British population has reduced by 50% in the last 25 years.
Is that a problem?
So I think, well, the pace of change is immense, and people are sick of that. People want to see mass migration ended. They want to return to the levels of immigration that we have enjoyed as a country.
Why is it a problem if the percentage of white people has fallen or risen?
Because you can't successfully integrate people at this speed into our country.
But why does the colour of their skin matter?
It's not about the colour of someone's skin. It's about whether or not someone has just arrived in our country. And if you have places...
But that is a different point,
If you have
then.
places...
That is a different
If you have
point.
places like the centre of Bradford, where half the population has only just arrived in our country, how can you expect those people to know our history, our heritage, our norms, our traditions, to be well integrated? If you see profound change in a community like Dagenham, where within 25 years, the people living in the community has changed almost beyond recognition, understandably, some people who live there will feel that the place that they knew no longer exists. And that is why people are so frustrated and angry at the decisions that politicians have made in recent years, why we have to take action. And frankly, nothing that was said yesterday is going to make a difference. It's not going to stop the boats. It's not going to end the era of mass migration. The Labour Party themselves have said it's only going to make a tiny difference, maybe 50 or 100,000 fewer people coming in every year. That's not good enough.